Bruchim Abayim, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Tuesday night Beit Midrash, where we are going through the discipline of Musar. And what an incredible journey that we've been taking as we're moving forward through Musar teachings that enhance our ability to serve our Creator and walk together as mishpacha, walk together as a community and as a family. Last week, we talked about the power of the tongue. And this week we're going to kind of be taking a very close look at the damage or the evil that the tongue can produce. As we talked about last week, James says that it's very powerful, so much that it can destroy the cycles of Genesis. So this idea of HaLashon, Today we're looking at Shmirat HaLashon, guarding the tongue. It's not just a matter of saying a few words, but a matter of words that can move the worlds. Okay, so the sages of Israel explained that the single biggest factor in determining one's portion in the world to come has to do with HaLashon, with the tongue. And so I want for us to return to a very interesting passage in the Derech HaYashar in Matthew 12:36. It says, "But I say to you that for every idle word men may speak, they will give an account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." So what did Yeshua mean when he said, by your words you'll be justified, and by your words you will be condemned? Isn't it by faith, our belief and our confession as Jesus, as the Messiah? Is that not what we're going to be justified or condemned by? Why does Yeshua say that it's by our words that we'll be justified, or by our words that we'll be condemned? It means that out of the abundance of the mouth, the heart speaks. What is in a person's heart will eventually come out of their mouth. So what Yeshua is really talking about is not that our words will be our salvation. Okay? He didn't say it would be our salvation. What he means is that our words will be the revealer of what's on the inside. What we say, what comes out of our mouth, reveals our innermost thoughts, our innermost position that we're in the same way that action also betrays what's in our hearts. We read in Ecclesiastes 12:13 through 14, it says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil." And we also read in 1 John 1:6, it says, "If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth." You see, mankind has a unique ability. Mankind has a unique ability to be duplicitous. They can think one thing in their mind and their heart and show something else on the outside of their body, and they can do something other than what they say they believe. It's quite a unique phenomenon. You know, a bear is a bear. A bear does what a bear does. There's no guessing that a bear is going to attack you out in the woods if it feels threatened by you. And a bear does what a bear does. But man has the ability to not be bound by his words. He can say one thing and he can do something completely opposite of what he said. After the sin of the Garden of Eden, mankind was no longer transparent, but was able to say one thing while meaning something else in his heart. A husband can tell his wife that I love you all day long, but if he continues to cheat on her, hide things from her, acts ugly towards her, does he really love her? Or is he just saying that he does? Okay? If the actions don't line up with the words, then we can be certain that something is definitely not right. Angry, hurtful words define an angry, hurtful person. Kind, considerate words define a kind and considerate person. Okay, so how one acts, what one says, what does, it betrays with what's in their heart. Man has the ability to for the most part, say one thing, do something else, and they can hide what's actually really in their heart, but then actually they really can't. Because what they say and what they do, if they don't line up, then something's amiss. See, the Greek word argon that's used in Matthew 12:36, that is translated as idle. It's defined as thoughtless, injurious, or careless. So when he says that every idle word, they're thoughtless words, hurtful words, careless words. And Yeshua is saying that we will be judged by those. When we just allow our mouth to do whatever we feel like, we have a problem. Now, the ultimate goal is to be unified, echad, inside and outside. Inside and outside. We should be unified. Our hearts and our words and actions should be unified. Another passage that uses that word argon, as we have looked at in Matthew 12:36, is in 1 Timothy 5:9-15. It states this: "Do not let a widow under 60 years old be taken into the number, and not unless she has been the wife of one man, well reported for good works, if she has brought up children, if she has lodged strangers, if she has washed the saints' feet, if she has relieved the afflicted, if she has diligently followed every good work. But refuse the younger widows. For when they have begun to grow wanton against Messiah, they desire to marry, having condemnation because they have cast off their first faith. And besides, they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but also gossips and busybodies, saying things which they ought not. Therefore I desire that the younger widows marry, bear children, manage the house, give no opportunity to the adversary to speak reproachfully, for some have already turned aside after Satan." So in this passage, we see that there's a tendency among younger widows to be busybodies and talebearers. And this comes about from idle time, being idle. Right? This is what Yeshua has talked about, idle words. They're careless and thoughtless. And a person who has idle time is doing careless and thoughtless things, such as gossiping, being busybodies, things like that. Specifically, Shaul states that they go around saying things that they ought not to say. They're careless and thoughtless about what comes out of their mouth. This is destructive behavior. To mindlessly and thoughtlessly pour forth words from one's mouth gives the impression that the outcome is not what is important, but the need to express oneself is what is important. Okay? This is kind of problematic. We're wanting to just allow things to come out of our mouth because that's just what we feel. So you see, I've titled this teaching called Guarding the Tongue, Shmirat HaLashon. The Torah gives us instruction on every aspect of life. It tells us what we're to eat, who or what to have relations with or not to have relations with, how we should use our money, how we should use our talents and our time. The Torah gives us instruction on every aspect of life, what it means to love Hashem and to what it means to love our neighbor. Just as equally important is that the Tanakh gives instructions on the proper use of speech. The Torah gives us tools to avoid bitterness, anger, and jealousy from within inside of our hearts, and to eliminate strife and hurt and divisiveness from His people and from relationships. You see, the Torah is meant to guide us in every aspect of life so that we can have shalom, have peace. And the tongue is no different. You see, the tongue itself is partly hidden and is partly revealed. This is an aspect that reveals something to us concerning its function. Okay? It's a revealer of hidden thoughts, ideas, and personality. The tongue takes that which is deep inside a person and it brings it out into the open. Talked about the fact that words are spiritual in last week's teaching. They're unseen. So the tongue is the very vehicle upon which these unseen thoughts are revealed. See, God has given us a tongue, and He's also given us specific guidelines on how it should operate correctly. The aspect of speech is so powerful that it can create and it can destroy. The principle is actually very simple. If one removes negativity, gossip, slander, and divisiveness from one's vocabulary, one automatically and dramatically improves one's own life and the lives of everyone around them. You see, a person with an angry heart and an outburst who doesn't control their tongue can walk into a room and set every single person on edge. On the other hand, a person also has the power to come in with encouraging words to one who is in deep despair and bring comfort to their life. So the tongue goes either way. It's partly hidden and partly revealed. Words have the power to take something that is common and make it holy. Words can take a cup of wine and turn it into something holy, kiddush. When we say kiddush, what we do is we sanctify the wine in recognizing that it comes from Hashem. Words transform two people who are individuals into a couple that is united through the holiness of marriage. So words have power. They're so powerful. And how we use those words and what we express have very deep significance within the world. Above and beyond all of that, words are tremendously powerful to accomplish what we were created for. Again, I'm going to refer you back to the couple of teachings that I did on love, especially the second one, that talks a lot about what our mouth and what our words were created to do. And that is to communicate the greatness of God and His presence in the world. We're to glorify God with this thing we call the tongue. To have relationships with Him, and to relationship always involves communication. This is the path of life. We read in Psalm 34, 11 through 14. It says, "Come, you children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man who desires life and loves many days that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it." One of the main aspects of the fear of the Lord is guarding one's tongue from evil and from speaking deceit. The text makes it very clear that it leads to life and many days that he may see good. Well, why? Why does the text tell us that we would see many days and that we would see good? Why would one be able to see good when they guard their tongue from evil and their lips from speaking deceit? Well, because when one speaks with evil speech and deceit, their lives are filled with contention and strife. That's basically what it is. Whatever comes out of their mouth is creating a reality that they're living in. If it's negativity and just being upset and frustrated and all that other stuff, that's the environment that they create. And that's the life that they live on. How have you ever seen someone who is a gossip and a slanderer live a happy life? What I've seen and experienced is that people whose lives, who live their lives that are filled with disappointment, anger, they're genuinely or generally unhappy people. They don't live happy lives because they're so busy, caught up in the busybody, gossip, slander, upset realm that they're creating a situation around them that does not bring happiness, or it doesn't bring completeness and wholeness in which the word shalom is encouched. Isaiah 43:21 tells us this. It says, "This people I have formed for myself. They shall declare my praise." That's our purpose. Our tongues are placed in our mouth as a means of praise to Hashem. It's through prayer, through Torah study, and other mitzvot that this is accomplished. It is our mouth that defines us. Think about it this way. Whatever holds an object that is holy then becomes holy itself. If the tongue is used to pronounce holy words, then the mouth becomes a holy vessel. But if it uses words that are common, then it becomes a common vessel. When one uses their mouth to utter words of Lashon Hara, then that person's mouth becomes defiled. It becomes evil, so to speak. It's a lot to ponder. It's a lot to think about. How does this affect one's spiritual life? You see, having a mouth that is not holy, it causes one's prayers to be ineffective through speech, and Torah study to become ineffective through actions. This is a pretty deep concept that we're looking at today. Speech is such a powerful tool in the world. It can literally define one's reality. Thoughts exist in a separate, private sphere. Once it is articulated, though, it's no longer a private matter. It becomes an item on the world's agenda, according to Chofetz Chaim. He says it's something that can be agreed with or argued, proven or disproven, attended to or ignored. Once it's brought out into the open, it is subject to be agreed with or argued with. If we don't want them to be argued with, or we don't want anybody to come with a different perspective, and all we want to do is just vent our feelings, once we put it out into the public forum, people are allowed to comment on it, whether they think they like it, whether they think they don't like it. Now, if one is wise, he realizes that he shouldn't. If a person is venting their feelings, they should just keep their mouth closed and not say anything. This is a part of discernment and being wise as to when to speak and when not to speak. So let's look at a scenario, okay? Two people will be working side by side for years. And during that time, one person has a thought in their mind that the other person is annoying, but they just don't say it. Right? They keep it in their heart, they keep it in their mind, and they're not really expressing the fact that they think that the other person is annoying. And then one day, this coworker is talking to another coworker. It's not the person that they're working by side, but it's someone else. And he offers his assessment of the other person as annoying. He basically says, hey, Bob over there, yeah, man, I've been working with that guy for years. He's annoying to me. He just gets on my nerves. I don't like the way he does such and such. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way he combs his hair. Whatever the deal might be. And then the instant that thought is released out into the open, it sets out a path of destruction. Okay? Now another person's attention is drawn to this man's annoying mannerisms, his haircut, whatever it might be. Whatever it is this guy does. The other person is now drawn to that particular annoying thing about the guy. And then he begins to lose a little bit of respect for him. He defines him or identifies him as a little less competent or a little less appealing. And then the next thing you know, he's going and he's telling other people. He's telling somebody else, hey, that guy over there's annoying. And the next thing you know, the entire company thinks this guy's annoying based on how he parts his hair. Okay? And then what happens is then he gets distanced by other people. Other people start to keep their distance from him. Why? Because now they've got a negative view of him. And that negative view has a tendency to ruminate and go over and over and over again in a person's minds to the point where they create this situation inside of their hearts where the guy is so annoying they can't even stand to look at him anymore. Now, maybe I'm being a little over the top with this analogy, but you can see what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the propensity or the possibility that this could take place. All because one person said that this guy was annoying. Words are the seal that make it happen. Once it releases out of us into the open air, we have started something in motion. Words give a finality to thoughts and to judgments. They give a finality to it. Once we say it, it's done. The Chofetz Chaim in his book called A Lesson a Day. It's all about Shmirat HaLashon. I highly recommend that you get your hands on this book if this is an issue that you deal with. He states this: one's words have a profound impact in heaven as well, because our sages state that the words spoken here on earth are the tools through which an accusation is lodged before the heavenly court. Okay, so basically what he's saying is the Satan, who is the heavenly prosecutor, he's always ready with his accusations, but he needs a second witness to set the judicial process in motion. You see, God has granted each person the power to act as a witness and thus take part in opening a case against another person. Lashon hara has the drastic effect of turning oneself into Satan's corroborating witness. The speaker of Lashon hara, evil speech, basically feeds Satan what he needs to begin the prosecution process. We're given Hasatan the power to be the accuser. If it wasn't for us, he'd have nothing to accuse. He doesn't accuse falsely. He accuses using the words that we have spoken. In fact, in an ancient Midrash states the very words which Satan uses in making his accusations are the words that one person has spoken against another person. We're giving him the fuel. We're giving him what he needs in order to make the accusation. Speaking Lashon hara not only opens the case against another person, but literally puts accusatory words into Satan's mouth. Think about that for just a minute. These things that we call words, and the tongue, the vehicle in which we're spitting them out, is giving power to the enemy. God's even given Satan even further prosecutorial power. Once he's met the requirements for opening the case, he has the floor. He has the floor. He's like a prosecuting attorney. It's his turn to speak, giving his opening statement. From there, he's able to conduct a free-ranging trial of the deeds of the accused, the speaker of Lashon hara, as well as the listener, those who listened to Lashon hara. If you can, think of a crime show or like Law and Order, where they go into court and they do their opening statement. That's it. He's got the floor. Everybody else got to be quiet. He gets to say what he needs to say. And it's not like he's not having any type of material to go on. I'm sure there's nothing but material that the Hasatan has to go on, because we often thoughtlessly, carelessly, as the word are going, idle words have come out of our very own mouths. You see, God agrees to listen to the accusations for one reason and one reason only. It's midah keneged midah. It's measure for measure. Since someone else spoke Lashon hara against one and somebody listened to it, then Hasatan gets to speak Lashon hara, speaking about us, and God agrees to listen. It's a measure for measure. Yeshua spoke the exact same words in Matthew 7, 1 through 2. He says, "Judge not that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." This is the idea of midah keneged midah, measure for measure. Does that mean that there shouldn't be any judgment at all in the body of the Messiah? No. No, that's not what it means. If this were so, then we would have to rip Matthew 18 completely out of our Bibles and throw them in the trash. Because in Matthew 18 is the passage concerning people making a judgment upon sinners within the congregation. Okay, so he doesn't say don't judge. He's saying if you're going to judge, just remember that if you judge with compassion and mercy, you yourself will be judged with compassion and mercy. But if you decide to judge someone else with harshness and strict judgment, then harshness and strict judgment is what you will be measured with. Okay, so he's saying be careful about how you judge. In Leviticus 19:17, it tells us, "You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall surely rebuke your neighbor and not bear sin because of him." Okay, so turning a blind eye to your brother's sin is equated to hating your brother. Turning a blind eye to our brother's sin will cause us to bear sin because of him. So the Torah is explicit in instructing us to judge our brother. Therefore, Yeshua did not advocate for no judging at all. He was just telling us that we should judge with righteous judgment, be compassionate and merciful in our judgment, because however we judge others, that's how it's going to be done to us. Lashon hara does far more damage than the average person may realize. Because we use words every day, all day long. We may not think that there's any discernible consequences, and it becomes easy to perceive speech as relatively harmless force. We use it all day long, and we like to think that we're doing it in secret. We talk to another person, and we take them off into a corner. We look around, see if anybody else is listening. Hey, let me tell you something. And then you speak this garbage between two people. And so we think that we're hiding it. We think that we're not doing any damage. We think that we're not hurting another human being, or that God doesn't see or hear, or that Hasatan doesn't see and hear. But we're mistaken on all fronts. We may not think that there's any discernible consequences, but there is. Lashon hara creates a separation, and it creates divisiveness. It's contrary to our purpose, which is to create unity among the brethren. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So therefore, if our purpose is to create unity within the body, unity within relationships, Lashon hara is the tool that breaks it apart. It's antithetical to our created purpose. So having said all that, let's define Lashon hara, evil speech. What is it exactly? Well, many people think it to be many different things. It's defined as information which is either derogatory or potentially harmful to another individual. A derogatory statement about someone is Lashon hara, even if it will definitely not cause that person any harm. If we think that it doesn't cause them any harm, but yet if it's a derogatory statement about them, it's Lashon hara. To focus on the shortcomings of another person is in itself wrong. To focus on it. Now, I'm not saying that we don't deal with it, okay? There's another aspect to this that I want to make sure that we're understanding, okay? If someone is doing something wrong, the Torah tells us, if your brother's sinning, you need to confront him. But to dwell on it, and then go above and beyond it and go tell other people about what they're doing, you see, Matthew 18 tells us that we go to the person and we tell them. If they won't listen, you take 2 or 3 witnesses with you, and confront them there. And then if they don't, bring them to the Beit. Bring them in front of the congregation. And if they still won't listen, he says put them on the outside. Treat them as a Gentile. Okay, so there's this idea that we're not supposed to say anything. The point being is, if it's not for the purpose of a correction, a tikkun or rectification, then you have no business saying it. We have no business talking about it. Especially if the people who are speaking it and the people who are listening to it have absolutely no skin in the game. And this is what I mean. Two people who are not even involved in a situation are speaking about it. Hey, I heard so-and-so did such and such. And yet they're not involved in what in the situation, what's going on, as is Lashon hara. A statement that could be potentially bring harm to someone, be it financial, physical, psychological, or otherwise, is Lashon hara, even if the information is not negative. Here's the thing. Here in America, we love to talk about other situations that we're not even involved in. We talk about politics, what's going on in Washington. We don't know what's actually going on up there. All we know is what we're being told. I'm, 3,000 miles away from Washington, D.C. What goes on in the White House and what people do, I have no idea. Someone else has to relay that information to me. I don't know what's being said, what's being done. In today's environment with AI, artificial intelligence, you can't even believe 90% of what you're seeing. They can literally make someone through AI in a video to say something that they didn't even say. Or they can make them say something they want you to believe because that's their agenda. So you see what I'm saying? Lashon Hara is horrible because a lot of the times, most of the times, it's third person, third, fourth, fifth person who's relaying this information who wasn't even there at the actual event to know what took place. Let's read Proverbs 21:23. It says, whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles. I love this verse. I absolutely love this verse. Because it tells us that we keep our souls from troubles when we Shmirat HaLashon. When we guard our tongue from what we say, we don't create troubles for ourselves. And beloved, most of the time we create troubles for our own selves by this right here, this tongue, by not guarding it. Right? The word Shmirat HaLashon, Shmirat, it comes from the word shamar. You've probably heard shomer. It means to guard, to protect, or to watch over one's mouth and tongue. Life has enough troubles as it is, friends. It does. Life has enough troubles as it is without slandering other people, spreading gossip and tale-bearing. Life already is difficult enough as it is. The quintessential passage within the Torah that is pointed to as our lesson in Lashon Hara is that of Miriam. When Miriam spoke negatively about her brother Moses, she was rebuked by God and was afflicted with a skin disease of tzeraat as a punishment. Tzeraat is called leprosy, translated as leprosy in the English Bible, but tzeraat is not Hansen's disease, what we know, where people's noses and fingers fall off and all that other stuff. This was something else. But due to Moses' prayers, she was cured soon after, but she still needed to remain outside of the camp for 7 days. Also, we have another situation. Unfortunately, the spies who were sent soon afterwards to Israel did not take a lesson from this story. And they too spoke negatively about the land of Israel. You see, Miriam created a situation for herself. The spies created a situation not only for themselves, but for all of Israel. They spoke negatively about the land, and then they affected other people. And the other people started to grumble and complain. The other people didn't even go into the land. You see what I'm getting at here? The people of Israel only heard the report of the people who had a certain perspective of the land when they went in. And their perspective was wrong. Because Caleb and Joshua came out and said, no, the land is great. We read in a Midrash that when they went into the land, that there was a lot of funerals going on. There was a lot of funerals happening, and as the spies went through, what God caused for them to be good, i.e. there was a lot of funerals going on, the people were distracted so that they wouldn't see or take notice of the spies as they traveled through the land. But how did the spies see it? They saw, oh my God, the land devours its inhabitants. And this is what they came back and told everybody. Their perspective was wrong. Their belief was wrong. Their understanding of who God is was wrong. And they came back, they gave a negative report based on a faulty perception and influenced the entire nation of Israel. And those who were in the nation of Israel who heard the report didn't even go to the land. And yet they started repeating the negativity and the negative words that were coming out. It's a serious condition that brings about serious consequences. Therefore, we are urged to depart from committing such an act and depart from those who actually commit that act. Don't need to be around negativity, lashon hara, evil speech, slander, gossips, tale-bearing. We don't need it in our lives. Suppose a person hears another speak lashon hara or vulgarities, and he finds himself among a scoffer who speaks disgracefully about the Torah and about mitzvot. Knowing that these people are stubborn and defiant, that they will ignore any reproof, he chooses to remain silent. And he will be punished for not rebuking them. For people may interpret his silence as agreement with what they have spoken. So when someone is speaking lashon hara, tale-bearing, slandering, gossiping, the person who's standing idly by, listening to these words, and speaks nothing and says nothing to rebuke anybody about it, it's as if they're agreeing with it. Friends, this is the same thing. If you know there's wrongdoing going on, and you say nothing or do nothing, you're agreeing with it. You're agreeing with it. You're condoning it. This ought not to be so in the body of the Messiah. Therefore, the person is obligated to respond to their words and to rebuke them sharply, to demonstrate respect for the Torah, for mitzvot, but above and beyond that, to respect God, who is the creator of the tongue. They've shamed God, and they have shamed the righteous person in which they've spoken against. This obligation is one of the factors which require a person to leave the company of the wicked. Right? Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. This is one of those things where we have to depart company if they refuse to change how they're doing. King Solomon said this in Proverbs 24:1 and 2. He says, "Do not be envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them, for their heart devises violence, and their lips talk of troublemaking." I want to address something that I think is very important for our teaching here today. There's a tendency among many to ignore the misconduct of others in favor of a live and let live philosophy. You see, the Torah rejects this attitude. We want to just overlook people's sins and misdeeds in order not upset the apple cart, or we're afraid to speak of righteousness. But that's not the way of the Torah. Every person is born with character flaws. It's our mission in life to change, to grow, to strive for perfection in spirituality. We all want to rid ourselves of imperfections. We want to get rid of that. We want to be and do good. But sometimes there's hindrances. There are things that hinder us from doing it. What makes life so challenging is that negative character traits, they're blinding. They keep us from actually seeing the real condition in which we find ourselves. We either lose sight of what our goals should be, or we rationalize to the point that we simply cannot differentiate between right and wrong. And therefore, it is a blessing. It is a gift that Hashem has given us in companionship with friends, family, people around us who are close enough to care, yet distant enough to be objective. You see, somebody on the outside can bring a fresh perspective in which we ourselves are blinded to. Other people call attention to our faults, hopefully in a loving, caring, gentle manner, as I talked about last week. Because if you attack somebody based on what they've done, their only tendency is to shy away, close their ears, and not listen. To abstain from speaking up and offering one another reproof and guidance amounts to depriving one another of one of the most valuable tools that we have for personal growth. We must get involved, and when necessary, even in less involvement, in less the involvement of others, and helping people through the struggle of life. Remaining silent when reproof is called for is not Shmirat HaLashon. It's depriving one's fellow of his lifeline to self-improvement. You see, when we're silent about what someone else is doing, especially in the area of Lashon Hara, we're depriving them of an opportunity for growth. Okay, so let's look at, again, returning to this incident of the slander of the spies. Caleb and Joshua responded to their sinful words in Numbers 14, verses 6 through 9. It says, "But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes, and they spoke to all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, The land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." The people didn't hear the good report of Caleb and Joshua. All they heard was the report of the 10 spies who reported a slanderous report about the land. Negativity plays such a destructive role in the lives of the people who spread it. The way that the people heard the words of Joshua and Caleb had already been twisted in such a way that they couldn't hear the truth because the spies tainted their perception. You see, there are two kinds of people in the world. There's the people who say, I can, and there are people who says, I can't. One person says, I believe that God will give us the strength and he'll give us the victory to get over this obstacle, this hurdle. There's another person who has disbelief in their heart and says, we can't do it. What about this? What about that? We can't do this. We can't do that. Negativity is so discouraging. It is so discouraging. Speaking Lashon Hara towards other people, it is so discouraging. You want to see the best in people. You really do. You want to overlook the negative traits in other people. And yet when you got somebody speaking Lashon Hara to you, and you don't put a stop to it, you just absorb it, then you get into a negative mindset as well. And it's just very discouraging, because the next thing you know is that all I'm doing is looking at what's wrong with everybody and everything. And then I wonder why I'm so miserable. Okay? The fact is, Caleb and Joshua explicitly said that the land has already been given to them. It was theirs for the taking. He told them as much. In Deuteronomy 7:16, also, you shall devour all the peoples whom the Lord your God delivers over to you. It's an interesting choice of words, if you ask me, because in Numbers 14, Caleb and Joshua refer to the people of Canaan as bread. They will be devoured, right? I taught this last Shabbat about the word milchama. The word for war has the word lechem in it. Lechem, bread. They're going to be devoured just like bread. He said, it's not a problem. All you have to do is obey the Lord. Do not rebel against him. Go into the land and the victory is yours. I'm telling you, friends, that's faith. That's emunah. That's bitachon, trust. Keep your mind from negativity. Keep your mind from Lashon Hara, speaking negativity into the world, because it has a profound effect, not only in the physical world, but in the spiritual world. And it appears at this point that the negative speech was stronger in the people's ears than the encouraging words that were spoken by Caleb and Joshua. Remember that. At any time we go to speak something negative, Lashon Hara, gossip, slander, remember that oftentimes in people's ears it is far more stronger than the words of positivity and encouragement. Therefore, in marriage, in Judaism, there's a rule that one must speak at least 10 encouraging, uplifting words to their spouse before they ever earn the right to bring any type of rebuke to them. Because we have a tendency, we'll bring 15 rebukes to one encouraging word. And then we wonder why we're so downcast and so discouraged oftentimes in relationships. And this is why marriages are breaking up. It's because after a while, people only look and focus in on the negative things. So Chavarim, I just want to encourage each and every one of us to continue moving on the path towards watching and guarding our tongue. Being certain to be more encouraging, less negative in the world. But bringing about a positivity in the world, talking about the greatness of God, the strength and the power of God, and that God can overcome. And according to 2 Peter chapter 1, He's given us all of the divine power to add to our faith. He's given us what we need. So, Chavarim, friends, let's walk in positivity. Let's walk in encouragement, speaking encouragement, lifting one another up, and staying as far away from Lashon Hara as certainly possible. I want to thank you for joining me this evening. If this word has encouraged you, opened your eyes, helped to bless you in ways that are going to help in relationship and communities, if these things have blessed you, please like and share this video. Please put it on all social media platforms that you have access to. Let's get these words out. Let's start building something that is greater and more powerful than the negativity. If you are also blessed and you want to support our ministry, you can go to www.derechhayashar.org. Go to the donate button. You can also send a check if you prefer to our P.O. Box 73155 in Puyallup, Washington 98373. I just thank you so much for joining us. I'm just absolutely overjoyed that we're continuing to take this journey together, and I pray that you have a blessed week, Shavua Tov, and Litrot.